2 more soldiers of the occupying Russian army surrendered to the soldiers of the Sila Svobodi battalion of the Rubezh brigade and were captured. After the strikes on the trench where they were hiding, the occupying soldiers pointed to the drone above their heads and expressed their desire to surrender. Then, raising their hands, they walked in the direction indicated by the drone, towards the position of the Ukrainian fighters. The captured invaders thanked the Ukrainian fighters for their survival and said that they had been treated kindly in captivity. The prisoners appealed to the Russian soldiers and called on them to surrender at the first opportunity.
Мы, солдаты российской армии, пришли на украинскую землю с оружием в руках, но 4-й батальон Силы Свободы дали на. Чтобы остаться в живых, мы сдались в плен. Хочу передать привет 4-му батальону и сказать спасибо за то, что мы живы. Хочу обратиться к русским военным. При первой возможности сдавайтесь в плен. Вам незачем умирать. Тут будут хорошо к вам относиться, но главное, вы сохраните свою жизнь. Слава Украине!
Героям слава!
The Russian army has broken through the Ukrainian defensive line south of Sudza in the Kursk region. Defense forces of Ukraine are trying to stabilize the situation. But Russian armed forces are advancing in the Kursk direction, having broken through the Ukraine's defenses between the settlements of Gavo and Kurilovka south of Sudza. Russian paratroopers are moving toward the state border, intending to block the supply route of the Ukrainian armed forces. At the same time, the Russian armed forces are occupying territory on the approaches to Basavka. There are about 12 kilometers left before the encirclement of the enemy group and the connection of Russian units. The neck of the cauldron is gradually narrowing. Russian units managed to drive a wedge 4 to 5 kilometers deep and reach an alternative supply route for the Ukrainians in Sudza, which they used due to the impossibility of delivering manpower and weapons along the main road. The logistics of the Ukrainian armed forces in this area are becoming increasingly difficult to access. The grim situation for Ukrainian troops near Sudza is also reflected in Ukrainian publics. The logistics of the Ukrainian armed forces in Kursk region are practically completely broken and are constantly controlled by the Russians, Kiev analysts note. Ukraine also complains that the Russian armed forces have cleared the territory of the village of Sverdlikovo and are putting pressure on the Sumy region in the Basavka area, expanding the gray zone. According to a source up from one of the units operating in this area of the Kursk region, the defense forces are currently trying to stabilize the situation. We are now trying to stabilize the situation so that the enemy cannot completely close off the communication routes. The Russians probably went for a breakthrough near Sudza to get another route to advance to the key road of the Ukrainian group in the Kursk region, Sumyunikovka-Sudza. Since the beginning of January 2025, they have been trying to take control of this road. At the end of February, the Russians made their first attempt to approach this road from the north, through the village of Novinkoy.
The money from the sale of Chelsea FC is still unavailable to Ukraine, and no one can say why. We are talking about £2.5 billion sterling that London received from the sale of Chelsea. This entire amount was supposed to go to humanitarian aid to Ukraine. In 2022, Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich was forced to sell the club due to sanctions from the British government. The Times reported Abramovich pledged to donate all proceeds to a fund to help war victims. Redress legal advisor Lyra Nightingale said the money had not yet been used for an unknown reason. 3 years have passed since the club was sold, but the funds have still not reached the fund. We don't know why they are stuck. It's a transparency issue. 3 years of campaigning to get this money used as the government promised, and it hasn't happened, she said. The House of Lords was told the money had been frozen in a UK bank account because of a dispute over where it should go. In March 2022, Abramovich announced the sale of the club and the creation of a fund to receive these funds. At the end of December 2023, London promised to transfer all proceeds from the sale of the football club to Ukraine. After the Hamas attack on Israel, there was a proposal to send the money to Jerusalem. A year ago, the House of Lords called on the UK government to unfreeze the funds from the sale of the club. Earlier, media reported that in January 2023, London decided to transfer all proceeds from the sale of Chelsea to Ukraine. Following the Hamas attack on Israel, there was talk of redirecting Abramovich's Chelsea sales money to Israel rather than Ukraine. This was reported by Telegraph Sport, citing sources close to the negotiations. They expressed opposing opinions about whether it was the oligarch's own idea or that of Israel, whose citizenship he received in 2018. An insider with close knowledge of the UK position says the money is still in limbo because of concerns that Moscow will react negatively to aid to Ukraine. Abramovich does not want to be condemned in Russia for spending money on Ukraine, he said. Abramovich is said to have not only considered donating the fund to humanitarian causes in Israel, but also suggested aid to victims of the recent earthquake in Turkey.